Every empire believes the same thing. Remove the leader, and the movement dies. Silence the voice, and the frequency disappears. Destroy the body, and the transmission collapses. But some systems are not built around personality. They are built around alignment, and alignment behaves differently. Because once a sacred pattern is successfully planted into collective memory, it no longer depends entirely on a single human vessel to survive. Last episode, we witnessed the construction of the consecration. Now we enter the most protected chamber of the meridian. Not the birth of sovereignty, not the defense of sovereignty, but the inheritance of sovereignty. How does a vessel disappear while the frequency remains? In 1935, Isaiah Shembe departed from the physical plane. Historically, a founder had died. But within the Sacred Meridian framework, something far more important had already occurred before that moment. The code had already been transferred into architecture, into pilgrimage, into movement, into rhythm, into memory, into ritual repetition, into the body itself. This is what made the movement structurally unusual. It was never designed to survive only through text. It survived through embodiment, through walking, through singing, through collective synchronization, through disciplined movement across sacred geography. The mountain remembered, the robes remembered, the songs remembered. The people became living carriers of continuity. The vessel departed, but the frequency had already entered the network. And then came the inevitable historical phenomenon that every sacred movement eventually encounters: multiplication. From the outside, history often describes this process using the language of fragmentation, division, splintering, factions. But within the Sacred Meridian framework, another interpretation becomes possible. What if the light was not breaking apart, but refracting? As the 20th century intensified, African life itself came under pressure at multiple levels simultaneously. Economic pressure, psychological pressure, spiritual pressure, urban pressure, political pressure, cultural pressure. Different vessels emerged to address different dimensions of that compression. Some emphasized discipline, some emphasized prophecy, some emphasized healing, some emphasized ritual purification, some emphasized structure, some emphasized music, some emphasized sacred law, some emphasized direct spiritual revelation. From an esoteric perspective, this multiplication can even be interpreted symbolically, almost like different energetic centers within a single living organism. Different frequencies, different functions, different spiritual tasks. Much like the human body contains multiple centers of consciousness operating simultaneously, the broader sacred movement diversified itself in response to the expanding complexity of modern African existence. Even the ceremonial expansion of colors beyond the original white garments can be interpreted within this symbolic framework. Different colors, different frequencies, different spiritual emphases, but originating from the same foundational transmission. The prism diversified the light, but the source remained one. As the 20th century advanced, the nature of conquest itself changed. Earlier empires conquered territory. Modern systems began conquering attention, rhythm, identity, memory, time itself. The machine no longer needed chains alone. Distraction became sufficient. Exhaustion became sufficient. Consumerism became sufficient. Disconnection became sufficient. And within this environment, the sacred movement continued functioning as a counter-system of reassembly. Pilgrimage interrupted industrial rhythm. Ritual interrupted fragmentation. Sacred dress interrupted imposed identity. Communal synchronization interrupted isolation. What appeared externally as religion can also be interpreted internally as continuity technology, a system designed to preserve alignment inside conditions, specifically engineered to produce spiritual dislocation. The machine accelerated, but the code adapted. Perhaps the deepest mystery of the entire meridian is this: the transmission was never ultimately stored inside buildings, nor documents, nor institutions. It was stored biologically, inside memory, inside rhythm, inside synchronized movement, inside nervous systems, inside collective emotional resonance. This is why the movement could survive political transition, economic collapse, urbanization, apartheid, modernity, globalization. Because the architecture was not merely external, it was internalized. The body itself became the archive, the biological altar. From an esoteric perspective, ritual repetition can even be interpreted as neurological preservation. The songs regulate emotion, the pilgrimages synchronize movement, the garments reinforce symbolic identity, the mountain stabilizes orientation, the collective body becomes a living memory field. And this may explain why sacred movements survive even when material conditions attempt to erase them. Because memory embedded in books can be destroyed, but memory embedded in living bodies becomes much harder to extinguish. And now we arrive at the present moment, the age of hyperspeed, hyperinformation, hyperdistraction. The machine no longer asks for your labor alone. It asks for your attention, your nervous system, your identity, your perception of reality itself. And this is why the meridian remains relevant, because beneath the historical narrative, a deeper question still exists. How does a people maintain alignment inside a system designed to fragment consciousness? How does sovereignty survive inside psychological colonization? How does memory survive acceleration? How does spirit survive machinery? The mountain still stands. The hymns still move. The robes still walk. The transmission continues. Not frozen, not static, but alive. Adapting, multiplying, breathing. For centuries, history taught Africa to search for sovereignty inside governments, inside borders, inside institutions, inside external approval. But what if the deepest sovereignty was always hidden somewhere else? Inside alignment, inside memory, inside sacred continuity, inside the body itself? The meridian was never only about one man. It was about transmission. And transmission behaves like life. It adapts, it multiplies, it survives, even after the vessel disappears. I am the biological altar. If this journey through the hidden architecture of sovereignty resonated with you, subscribe, share, and continue walking the meridian. The transmission continues.